This Talladega 2 DFS Picks edition of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code RACESGPN to get a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. We are also brought to you by Rhythm. Start crushing college football and the NFL with Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHM.
Driver, start your engine!
Strap in and pull those belts up tight as the Sports Gambling Podcast Network presents the NASCAR Gambling Podcast.
I'll wreck my mom to win a championship. I'll wreck your mom to win a championship.
With all the news and the best bets for your NASCAR weekend.
It refrains me from not beating the out of you right now because you ask me stupid questions. But since I'm on probation, I suppose that's improper to say as well. If you could talk about racing things, we could talk about racing things.
Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb.
Long time no see. It's, of course, the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Cody Zeeb still. I'm Rod Villagomez still. And if you're listening on the traditional podcast, you have no idea what I'm talking about. That's okay, because we still are here to talk DFS today, regardless of whether or not you're joining us live for the back-to-back live episodes. And this is a plug to subscribe to YouTube, because if you were in the YouTube earlier, you knew we were going live for a second time in a row to talk DFS and take your live questions for DFS, because it's a super speedway, and hey, we can do that on a super speedway and talk about all the drivers you want to hear about from this Talladega Superspeedway.
Yes, excited about this, Rod. We'll just go ahead and put this out there quickly. If you want us to talk about a driver, and people are already flooding the comment sections, which we love, drop them in the chat. All three series is open. Talk about them DFS. If they're on Underdog, we'll talk about that as well. Instead of bringing our own picks to the show this time, we're gonna bring your picks. Talk about the guys that you want to see. Most important question though, King wants to know if you're betting Jimmie Johnson again this week, Rod. Of course, we touched on this on the betting episode for the Cup Series earlier this week. If Jimmie Johnson were racing this week, it'd be a week where you could actually bet him and have a chance, but he isn't racing, so
that's cruel. That's just cruel. And by the way, too, if you're in the Discord, there is a special phone number that you can call, and we can play your voice message on the show and ask your question to us through voicemail. So if you're not in the Discord already, sg.pn/Discord, get in there. There's a phone number in there. Call that bad boy, leave a message, and we'll play it on the show. Definitely. I'm not telling you the number. You got to go into the Discord.
You're already in the Discord, Bojo.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Go over there and get the phone number.
I do take a drink at the mention of JJ for sure, because that's a sore subject for me. But again, this is DFS. We're talking about all three series: Talladega, super speedways, obviously varying laps and all that other good stuff. And so lots of targets for lots of drivers to talk about. In fact, if you were with us earlier in the truck episode, you heard a lot of names that you don't necessarily hear at all, and so you may hear them again here if somebody decides to bring it up. But yeah, we definitely want to know your takes and the drivers that you want to talk about. We'll get to those in a second, but let's tell you first about Hurricane Helene. It's been devastating, obviously, as we know, to the people of Western North Carolina. SGPN and the bosses, they're teaming up with a local charity, mountainprojects.org. It's going to help give back the biggest donation to this from the SGPN and via the SGPN. You're going to get a guest spot on the CFB Pick Show, and you're going to get a ton of gear as well. So go help mountainprojects.org and hit flood support to help out today. We thank you very much. SGPN also has the most DGen pregame shows in the world. Saturday, the College Experience YouTube is live, and it starts at 11 Eastern. For the NFL, the Propcast kicks off at 11 a.m., followed by SGPN at noon East. You get last-second bets, DGen parlays, your calls, and more. All right, Cody, as we said, we're going to just go ahead and no spinning the wheel this time. No fancy schmancy ways to get it. We're going to talk both Underdog and we're going to talk about our DFS lineups as well as we start taking drivers. So,
let's go to the top of the board. I think it'd be a good, keep it in order here if we can. Walter, first of all, said, let's fucking go. More racing talk. Hell yeah. Preston, whoa, long time no see. Thank you guys for both joining us. Walter got the first question in. Chase Elliott, Rod. Chase Elliott is set at 10.5 for his finishing projection over on the Underdog. And then over on DFS, he is $9,500. Of course, we know salary doesn't mean a whole lot as far as DFS goes, because you're probably going to be leaving some on the table if you want. Looking at Chase Elliott's history here, it's been pretty solid. 15th place here in the spring, 7th last year, 12th last spring, 1st place. He did win this race in 2022, 7th before that, 18th, 24th, then a 5th, a 38th, but then an 8th place finish. He did win again in 2019. So he's been pretty solid here at Talladega so far. Rod, any thoughts on his higher, lower at 10.5?
So I'm a little bit, I don't know, because I'm a little iffy about with the 9 car, because again, we know that, yeah, he's been good, but I don't know, man. Kyle Larson is his teammate, and if you're going to try to run with Kyle Larson, if you're going to try to run with Kyle Larson, maybe if you're running with squirrels, you're going to get your nuts cracked. But I'm higher on the Fords and the Toyotas this particular race. So the Chevys, it doesn't leave me a whole lot. Can he finish top 10? Yeah. Will he probably be around to the top 10? Probably. So I guess if I'm going to lean, Cody, I can't pass on this one. If I'm going to lean,
we're back to leans.
We're back to leaning. I'll go ahead and give him a top 10 finish. He has done it 8 times here in 17 starts, and he's done it a handful of times in his last 5 starts on this track. He's done it 3 out of 5. So, and then the other 2 outside of that, 12th and 15th. So, all right, give me higher than 10th and a half, better than.
Yeah. So in a general sense, I'm going to be looking for worse thens at super speedways for the most part, right? I would rather take more worse thens, try and pick the guys that I think aren't going to finish well. If I was taking Chase Elliott on Underdog, though, I think you have to take the better than. I mean, you mentioned it. The last 5 races in a row, he's been in the top 15. The last 6, he's been in the top 18. Yeah, he's got a lot of really good finishes here. I mean, only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 finishes. Not even that. What is it? He's got 3 finishes worse than 18th place here. I mean, so he is really in 10th place or better a majority of the time. He's also been the most consistent guy this season, right? He's only had 2 races where he's finished worse than 20th place all season long. I think that he'll probably keep that up this weekend. So I would take him there. And then as far as $9,500 on the DFS side of things, he's a solid play. I mean, it's going to depend where he starts, right? But he's got that ability to lead a lot of laps here. We've seen him play that Pied Piper role before. And, he can finish well, obviously, as we just talked about.
Yeah, I you know me and putting high price drivers in DFS lineups. It's just so difficult. But if you're going to have to take one, you're going to have to take a stand. I suppose you might as well go ahead and take one on him. So I like that one. All right. So Chase Elliott, I guess we'll go ahead and take the better than in Underdog, and then we'll go ahead and play him in DFS for sure. But Parker Kligerman, Rod, in the Xfinity Series, of course. Underdog has him as well. 7.5 is where they have got Parker Kligerman set at for his finishing projection. He has won twice at Talladega in the Truck Series. He hasn't won here in the Xfinity Series in his 5 starts, but 3 of those 5 starts, 3rd and 2 6th place finishes, 29th and 31st in the other 2. So, just got caught up in accidents as we know can happen. But he's 3 for 5, finishing on the better than side. 7.5. What do you think, Rod? So I like it because, again, when you look at what happened earlier this spring, he did start from 3rd place. He was 2nd place at the end of stage 1. He was in the top 10 at the end of stage 2. So he was 7th place there. And I think he's got a good, what was his number again? His finishing position?
7.5.
Yeah. So he was 7th at the end of stage 2. Again, you get caught up in the nonsense, and that takes you out of it. But Yeah, I mean, for Parker Kligerman, this is a really good number considering what he's done over here in the last 3 of the last 4 races. So I like 7. I take the better than on. And again, I know we talk about taking the worse than on this. And in fact, if you want a case for the worse than, at Daytona he finished 25th. At Atlanta he finished 19th, and both of those he had top 5 starts. He started 4th in Daytona, 5th in Atlanta. 3rd at Talladega, finished 29th. So super speedways have not necessarily been kind to him, although he did finish 3rd at Daytona and 2nd in Atlanta in the last couple of times out. So started out rough, and then kind of picked it back up at that point. I did make a case for him in the betting episode for Sheldon Creed to finish better than him on this track, but it wasn't to say that Kligerman wasn't going to have the best of days. It was just that if Sheldon Creed's going to finish 2nd, one of those guys had to win the race. And I'm not sure Parker Kligerman is going to win the race, but I think he could be in the mix for a top 7 finish by the end of the day.
Yeah, this is a really tough one as far as Underdog goes because he's been very, very good at Talladega, especially in the Truck Series, and he's been good here in the Xfinity Series as well. I don't love taking better than 7.5 on really anyone at a super speedway. So probably a guy I wouldn't necessarily play, but if you're forcing me to pick a side, I would take the better than on Kligerman. He is 8,500 over on the DFS side of things. And I think he's a really good play there. Kligerman's a guy that in general I've always brought up on super speedways, but the books have sort of caught on to it. And so we don't get the numbers we used to get. We didn't talk about him too much. I know you faded him in that one head-to-head, but that's not necessarily indicative of everything, but always been a strong super speedway guy. So a guy that at 8,500 I would play, Rob.
Indeed. Yeah, 8,500 is not a big bite out of what you need. So I'm with you on that one as well. All right. John Hunter Nemechek and Austin Dillon.
Yes. I don't believe either of these guys are. Austin Dillon is actually available on the Underdog rod, 13.5 for him. How do you find, Rob?
Instant worse than you want his last.
Actually, both of them are on here. John Hunter as well at 15.5. So
well,
let's do one at a time. Let's start with Dillon.
Dillon definitely worse than 38, 33rd, 30th. Those are his finishes at the Talladega Superspeedway in the last 3 years. Granted, he had some better finishes before that, but we're talking like the last 3 years. And then the misfortune continues earlier this season. 37th at Daytona, 22nd in Atlanta, 30th at the Talladega, like I said earlier this season. Come back and yeah, it's been pretty bad all around on these drafting tracks. 20th in Atlanta, so and then 22nd at Daytona. Nothing in that makes me encouraged at all to take this better than.
Yeah, I think this is again one you're leaning to the worse than side. I'm again always going to generally lean worse than his Talladega. He's got the capability to do it, right, and we know that about Austin Dillon. We've seen him win at Daytona multiple times. But it's just the way things have been going this season has been pretty rough for that entire team. And it's not been good for him the last 3 starts. I mean, very bad for all 30th or worse in the last 3. So I do think the worse than side as well. DFS wise, he is more of a play that you could probably use on that side of things just because he's got that upside, right? And we know that he can get that type of good finish. So as far as the GPP play goes, $7,000. Don't hate taking him there. John Hunter Nemechek rod, 15.5 is his finishing position over on Underdog. I personally like John Hunter Nemechek this weekend. I gave him out over on the betting episode for Top Toyota. Again, that's mostly a numbers type of play, right? But what do you think about John Hunter?
So here's the interesting thing about John Hunter Nemechek, right? So he started off his career in the Cup Series in the 38 in 2020, right? So he had 2 starts on Talladega in the 38, and he got 2 8th place finishes. He started 22nd, finished 8th, started 23rd, finished 8th in both 2020 races. But since his signing with Legacy Motor Club, 33rd place on this track. And really, we know Legacy's struggles this season have been just
You had glowing things to say about Legacy last week, Rod. What changed?
No, I had glowing things to say about Jimmy Johnson. I didn't have glowing things to say. I will say, though, 7th place in Atlanta, or at Daytona, rather, but 21st place in Atlanta, 33rd, like I said, at Talladega. And then you come back around to the second round of Super Speedway Racing, 15th at Daytona, 33rd at Atlanta. I mean, John Hunter Nemechek's average finishing position of the season, 25.1. It's just tough to have any faith in him anywhere. It doesn't matter whether it's a super speedway where, anything can happen, whether it's a road course, whether it's a mile and a half, whether it's a short track, it doesn't matter. Like, this has been John Hunter Nemechek's cross to bear. 25th at Darlington, 33rd at Atlanta, 21st at Watkins Glen, 33rd at Bristol, 30th at Kansas. That's a cross section right there. That's mile and a half, road course, super speedway, drafting track, and mile and a half. So, I mean, you got it all. That's the cross section, and they're all in the 30s or 20s, and it's not, the outlook is not good. If I shook an 8-ball and I said, what about John Hunter Nemechek? It would say, outlook not good. Try Jimmy Johnson.
My 8-ball, Rod. 8th place twice here, wrecked in the spring. Again, that was the Toyota deal, right? That was where the Toyotas all got together. They crashed out. Shit happens. Oh, well, we're moving on. 8th place in the other 2 starts he has here. 15th at Daytona in the fall here. 7th in the 500. I really like John Hunter Nemechek this week. This isn't a small number. It's not a 7.5 where there's only 7 spots to finish. 15.5. He's got 15. He could finish in the top 15 somewhere. I think John Hunter Nemechek has that in him. This is the type of race where they're going to be able to get these results. A place like Kansas, not going to happen, right? They're going to run bad, like you said, but they can have a good finish here this weekend. I like the better than on the John Hunter Nemechek side of things.
Beautiful. All right. We gotta take a look. We got time. Time got away from us.
It did.
Isn't that beautiful?
Let's take a break and you guys are filling up the chat, so we appreciate that. We're going to continue with your questions after this word from our wonderful sponsors.
Indeed, we are. We're going to talk about Underdog Fantasy. We've been telling you all about Underdog Fantasy right now because we're giving you all of our favorite picks from Underdog Fantasy. But Underdog Pick'em actually has the biggest menu for all of sports. You got NFL, college football, MLB, MMA, WNBA, NASCAR, Formula One, esports. Just doesn't matter. The list goes on and on and on. Keep picking all those sports, and they'll continue to add them. Lobby's jam-packed with profit boosts as well, and you can use your specials and boosts on all flexed entries. We got tons of suggestions this week to get all of your flex entries on there and all of your specials. So keep up with that as we give you all of our favorites picks from Underdog Fantasy throughout the course of this episode. In the meantime, sign up with our promo code RACESGPN to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code RACESGPN.
All right, Rod. Next up on the list, Boji Joe, Kyle Busch, missing an H, but we'll fill in the rest of the puzzle there. Kyle Busch, what are your thoughts on Kyle Busch this weekend? Of course, if you listened earlier in the week, we know that you gave out Kyle Busch to win the race. But what do you think about his 8.5 finishing position over on Underdog?
Well, I believe that I said this is either win or bust for Kyle Busch because it's a matter of he's either going to win this race or he's going to wreck out trying. And it's tough for him because if you look back at his finishing positions, I mean, the only way you can take Kyle Busch is an outright because he's not a top 5 car most of the time. He's not even a top 10 car. In fact, he's not even a top 20 car on this track more often than not. In 2022, he had a 3rd place finish. That's great. But he followed it up with the 20th place finish in the fall. In the spring of 2023, he won this race. But the last 2 races on this track, 25th and 27th. So you're picking one or the other here, folks. You're either all in on Kyle Busch winning this race, in which you can take the better than, or you can be smart and hedge on your underdog and take the worse than, and then if he wins your bet,
you bet him to win, and then you hedge with the worse than on Underdog. Yeah, I mean, the last 14 starts at Talladega, only twice has he finished better than this Rod. I mean, that alone speaks for itself. Kyle Busch, look, he has been great in the next-gen car on super speedways. You go back and you think of almost winning the 500 last year, of being in that photo finish at Atlanta earlier this year, winning a Talladega last year, almost winning a Daytona a couple of weeks ago. He can definitely be there and get it done. But when the number is so low, like 8.5 in this case, I think I said 7.5, but 8.5, it's such a low number, and he's not done it a lot here lately. I do think he could win. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be super shocked if he finishes in the top 8. But again, if you're playing the odds here, it's more likely he's not going to finish top 8. And the thing to keep in mind with these underdog plays and these finishing projections, on a week-to-week basis, how many cars can finish in the top 8, right? It's not all 36, 38 cars that are in the race, but at Talladega, all 38, 40 cars, whatever it is, Cody Ware, could he finish in the top 8? Yeah, actually he could, and has most recently just at Daytona, right? And so that makes a lot more cars that can finish in that shorter window. Makes it tougher to take the better than side. So, I would go with the worse than side, although, again, don't be surprised if Kyle Busch is mixing it up for the win. But again, it's all about the numbers.
Well, and so I'm going to go back to this analogy that I always go back to. Somebody kicks me in the nuts 10 times in a row. Now, if somebody swings and doesn't kick me in the nuts, like, 3 out of, then maybe I don't move, right? If you keep kicking and you're not hitting, then I'm not going to move. If you kick me 3 times out of 10, all right, you got me. Like, I'm probably not having any more kids. But at the same time, like, I'm feeling pretty safe that you're not going to connect and that I'm going to walk away without a limp. So love that. Anyways.
Speaking of getting kicked in the nuts, Brandon Jones.
Walter. Which Chase? Are we talking Chase Elliott?
Well, yeah, he already brought up Chase Elliott, which we already talked about, so we can skip that part. But then he added his Xfinity and Truck Series picks. So Brandon Jones is not available on the Underdog. So if you want to play him over on the DFS, I was quickly trying to pull up his pricing. He is a good GPP play. I will tell you that. He's $8,000, Rod. Brandon Jones, look, it is very much the kick me in the nuts thing that we always kind of joke about with him. He can do really good and win this race, or he can do really bad like he likes to do a lot and not win this race. And, you go back and you look through his results here at Talladega specifically, 33rd in the spring, 14th, but a 9th place in October of 22, 26th, but then a 2nd place in 21, then 37th, but 4th, then 16th, 18th, but 2nd, then 37th. So it really is one or the other with Brandon Jones. So I think he is definitely a good GPP type of play when it comes to the DFS side of things, because he does have that ability for the 2nd place, the 4th place, the 2nd place, the 9th place finish even. But he's also, like everyone, got that downside of 37th twice in 12 starts and 26th and 33rd when we were here in the spring earlier on, even though in the spring, 5th and 8th in the stages, and then ends up 33rd on the day because he gets caught up in a wreck, which is super speedway racing in a nutshell for you. But yeah, I know. You have any thoughts on Brandon Jones, Rod?
Yeah, and I'll add that for DFS for sure, like you said, GPP, sneaky GPP play, because he can get you a 9th place finish like he did at Daytona earlier this season, starting 22nd. That's a pretty solid DFS day right there, starting 22nd and finish 9th. In Atlanta, he finished 14th, but he started 18th. So minimal return. I'm not really sure what his price was in Atlanta on that one. But Talladega, like you said, kind of a bad day. Started 23rd, finished 33rd. Come back around to the second end of the super speedway-esque type things. Daytona started 16th, finished 22nd. So not a great DFS day there. But another drafting track in Atlanta, started 18th and finished 9th. And then didn't talk really much about Michigan, because obviously for Michigan, the Xfinity Series was kind of like a plate track. Started 6th, finished 36th. He crashed out of that one as well. So, I mean, this is definitely a GPP stab. I wouldn't go too heavy on this, maybe 1 or 2 lineups with Brandon Jones in it.
There you go. And then Ben Rhodes, one of the more interesting Underdog questions in the Truck Series. 6.5 is what he said at, Rod. Of course, if you just listened to our Truck Series episode a few minutes ago, or if you're listening on the podcast yesterday, 6.5. You're obviously very big on him. You're running the truck lift, top 5, top 3 to win the race. So if you're playing him in your Underdogs, would you take him at better than 6.5? He's done better than 6.5 3 of the last 4 times here.
Yep. Couple of 2nd place finishes in that span. And I definitely think that Ben Rhodes, this is, let's not get my knowledge base twisted. I definitely forget where I'm at half the time, let alone whether or not Ben Rhodes is in the playoffs. So I still think Ben Rhodes can play spoiler. That he's pissed that he's not in the next round. That he's pissed that he's not moving on and competing for yet another championship. So, to me, this is total spoiler. This is total just go out and I don't want to say run the race that you should have run last week, but run the race that you should have run last week and to be able to move on into the playoffs. So I like Ben Rhodes. Give me the better than in this instance. And I do like his DFS potential as well. Because again, this is, if he comes out and he ends up leading a ton of laps, if he comes up and wins this race, then I think you're going to be sitting pretty. Ben Rhodes currently at $8,700 in DFS, so I like him.
Yeah, 6.5. It's a low number, but he's been getting it done, so hard to argue with the better than side. Here we go. Preston asking, is Allgaier good here? No, he is not, and that's why I love worse than 7.5 for Justin Allgaier. Rod talked about it, fading him. I think you faded him in a couple of head-to-heads on the betting episode. 38th here in the spring, 28th the spring prior to that. Did he not race last fall?
I don't think he did.
Did he miss the race for some reason?
I think he might have.
I don't remember that. But anyways, must have. Anyways, so 38th, 28th, 15th, 22nd. Did have a third here in October 2021. Great. But 29th, 29th, 28th, 28th. He before that was really from 2011 to 2018. Very good here. Did not finish worse than 8th place. But that seems to have evaded him since then. We know his history with pianos falling out of the sky and anything bad that can happen happening to him. So, yeah, Allgaier worse than 7.5. Probably one of my more favorite ones on here. He's sort of, nobody's quite in Larson territory, but definitely a guy trending that direction. Rod, any other thoughts on Allgaier?
So, fun fact, there was no second Talladega date at the Xfinity Series in the fall last year. That is why Justin Allgaier didn't finish poorly or at all.
I was going to say, I didn't remember him missing a race, so that makes a lot more sense.
Ben Rhodes is in the playoffs. No, but listen, for Justin Allgaier, I made the case for him in the betting episode. I as much as I love JRM, as I love that 7 car, there's something about this particular track, and it doesn't carry over into any other drafting track, but Talladega, it just seems to be that is the one that gets him. And so, yeah, you got to take the worst then in this instance. And I don't even want to play him in DFS, unfortunately. And that's where we're at.
Yeah, agreed. No arguments there. Boji Joe says, Mick who? McGee, that's right. Keith McGee's who he's talking about. He is not available on Underdog, Rod, but only $5,200 on the betting side of things, or on the DFS side of things, rather. Talked about him earlier on the betting episode. Keith McGee that I like because of his number there. DFS-wise, though, also not a bad play. He's a cheap guy, not going to be highly rostered, right? Nobody really knows who he is. Nobody knows a ton about him. But 10th place in his one start at Talladega in 2021. You like that out of him. 21st at Atlanta in the spring. Again, not a ton of experience, but a guy that, was it top Toyota? What? I don't remember what the bet I gave out on him was, Rod. Was it?
You gave him all over the place.
Ford. He's in a Ford this week. So yeah, 16-1 again. It's that trend of just the size of the how many Fords are in the field, the number you're getting him at. So I do like him more for that, just because of the upside of the number. But at this price at $5,200 in DFS, I do like him as well.
I'm gonna take your word for it. That's
What'd you say?
I said I'm gonna take your word for it. That's all there is to it. I'll take.
We need one more break before we finish.
We do need one more break. We do need one more break. But I will also tell you that you can get it in the Discord right now. sg.pn/Discord. There is a phone number sitting there that you can call, and you can leave a message and ask your question in message form if you'd like as well, if you're watching live. Or look, I'll leave it up. I'll leave it up through the weekend. I'll leave it up. And then if you want to leave some questions for us, then you can call and we'll play them on the recap show as well. We'll kind of test this out, because I definitely want to I want to see how this works, because if we can start taking calls, maybe we'll do some more live pre-race shows next season. We'll add that to the mix. But yeah, get in there, sg.pn/Discord. You'll find the number in there, and yeah, just give us a little bit of a message. We want to hear from you. But first, we'll hear about Rhythm. SGPN's proud partner, Rhythm, is the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on money lines, spreads, totals, and props. You could build your own model, copy one of the top-performing models from the leaderboard, or press Build a Model for Me, and Rhythm gives you predictions for every game and player prop, and also has a myriad of stats, research, and trend analysis to give you even more betting insights. You can claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. We're brought to you by BetUS. Bet with the best in the business. BetUS. BetUS has been around for more than 30 years. You can easily deposit using cryptocurrency and get lightning fast payouts. U.S. players are always welcome. Sign up now and deposit $100. You got a chance to win a 1960 Ford Mustang. Oh, I want that. I'm doing that right now. Hang tight, guys. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. We're giving you plenty of our favorite Bet US picks throughout the course of the week. So go back, listen to our betting episodes. We got some great odds over there from Bet US. You can use our link to sign up and get 125% deposit bonus on your first 3 deposits. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS. Promo code SGPN so they know that we sent you. Bet US, America's favorite sports book.
All right, Rod.
That Mustang is off the shelf now. It's gone. It's mine. So sorry, guys. 1960 Mustang belongs to me.
That's a beauty. By the way, Tiago is watching right now. Just subscribe to the channel. So make sure if you're watching as well, be like Tiago and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate it. Shout out to you. All right, Rod, back to the questions. Preston, trucks. Who besides Ben Rode to take and who to fade besides Matt Crafton? I'm going to take this as a question that we can make our own picks. So I'm going to do that, Rod. Ty Majeski, 8.5. Look, man, we just talked about pianos. We just talked about things that can go wrong for people. I've not even looked at what Ty Majeski's done here, Rod, but if I know someone that things can go wrong for, it's Ty Majeski. I will take the worst then. By the way, 2 starts here in his career, both on the worst end side of things. 21st in last fall and 23rd the fall before. So, yeah, got to take the worst then, 8.5 on Tyrone Majeski.
So I'm over here right now digging into Lane Riggs because we pretty much just kind of glossed over Lane Riggs and we didn't necessarily talk about his potential because
are you looking at the new Lane Riggs or the old Lane Riggs though, Rod?
Well,
those two things could be very different.
They very much are. 7.5 is his finishing position, which is it's tough, right? Because you look at what happened earlier this season: 33rd at Daytona, 33rd in Atlanta, and that's it. And that's it. They've only had 2 drafting tracks in the Truck Series, so it's really difficult to kind of gauge. Because then you look at, like you said, the new and improved Lane Riggs, that 38 truck that all of a sudden, maybe if you lift Lane Riggs's face off, then all of a sudden there's like smiling right at you, right? 5th place at IRP, 5th place at Richmond. He won at Milwaukee. He won at Bristol, a 2nd at Kansas. So did he get something figured out? That's the question. I mean, where are you on Lane Riggs? Do you want better than 7.5? Or
I mean, no. I just again the general rule: lean towards fade unless somebody screams at you that they're really, really good. So I think you would have to go with the worst on side, but not really a guy I want to touch just because he's been doing so good lately, and that scares me a little bit.
Well, and that would make me maybe inclined to pick the better than 7.5 because then maybe he has gotten something figured out. Maybe he will end up running better than expected. So we didn't really talk about Lane Riggs, and Lane Riggs is somebody that I feel like we needed to talk about, and DFS is probably one of those. So then I guess the question to you is, Lane Riggs sitting there at $9,300. Does that interest you at all?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't disinterest me, which I guess is the most important thing about a super speedway just in general. Probably going to be overlooked a little because you don't really think of him as a super speedway guy. So, I'm not going to run and put him in my cash lineup probably, but definitely as a GPP play, worth a sprinkle.
Yep. Not a ton of truck experience anyways. So, just like I said, if I'm picking the brand new one, the Zane Smith Lane Riggs, then I'll take the better than 7.5. So, all right. Anybody else? Jessica saying feels like I just talked to you. Hello, Jessica. It does feel like that. And weird. All right. Let's see. King says he'll be tuning into the Xfinity race just to see Mayer get crashed. Let's see. Brought up Mayer. Is Mayer on the Underdog, Rod? 10.5 for Sam Mayer. Do you also think that he will get crashed? I don't know. I think we talked about him in the Xfinity racing part. It's just hard to trust.
Did we talk about him?
We just brought his name up as an aside. We don't have anything on it. So.
He is just a tough guy, especially lately, to trust in any way, shape, or form. I will say them setting the projection at 10.5 makes it harder to just automatically go to the worst end side, although holy shit, he's not
29th.
I mean,
29th in the spring.
Yeah, well, he's 36th in the spring, 29th last year. He did have a second in 22, so he's capable of doing it, but 28th and 38th. So you got 5 career starts here. 4 of them, he's finished 28th or worse. So good chance you are going to see him get crashed out, I believe.
Well, and you look at some of the earlier super speedways, right? 36th at Daytona. He did have an 11th place at Atlanta, but come back around on Michigan, 37th on that drafting track part of it. And 36th at Atlanta.
You got to, speaking of pianos, holy shit, that guy's just had the worst luck this year. So if I'm going to play him worse than, actually, I probably will play him on the worse than side of things, I think.
Indeed.
Our buddy James checking in. Daryl, he calls him Daryl. Daryl in Cup. Of course, he's talking about Bubba Wallace. New Dad Energy. We did talk about that on the betting episode. Took him at 21-1 to win, so I like that. Bubba Wallace, 10.5 is where his finishing position is set, Rod. I will say, while I do like betting Bubba Wallace to win this race at 21-1, if you were forcing me to play his DFS or his underdog projection, I think you got to go worse than, Rod, because if you look, 10.5 is where he's set at. In his last 5 races here, he's not finished better than that. And in 13 career starts, 1 time has he finished better than 10.5. So how can I even consider taking the better than side of this? I mean, again, 21-1, it offers great value because of the number you're getting and how good he's been previously. And we know what he's capable of here, right? He's led a ton of laps and he's done well in the stages and he's capable of getting that victory. But if you're just forcing me to take the finishing position when you're 1 for 13, you got to go with the worse than side of things.
But this is also a situation where we talk about guys can be lights out at other drafting tracks. I mean, you look at earlier this season, 5th place at Daytona, 5th place at Atlanta, comes back for a 6th place at Daytona again, right? I mean, and then Atlanta 29th to kind of close out the drafting track part of it. But again, it's great at all these other drafting tracks, but something about Talladega, like, yeah, he got that win, but I know there's a lot of people that like to put an asterisk by that win. But at the same time, there's a lot of bad finishes out there that have gotten to him, as opposed to finishing well on Daytona and Atlanta and, you know, some of these other tracks that are drafting tracks. Well, those are
and it's a lot like Keselowski, like, just to bring him up super quick, he's 7.5. While I like him to win, and I think that that's a good bet, 7.5, like, so many things that can go wrong, and so many times that he does finish better, but so many times that he doesn't. Again, that's kind of how it is. Second part of James' question, old number 7 at Xfinity had a shit weekend last week, looking for redemption. He might be looking for redemption, but we talked about him already earlier. We're both on the worse than side. TK as well, following up with questions saying, does the 7 need to do okay this week for the playoffs? So the Xfinity Series playoffs, they are currently, if I could find the Xfinity Series here, they are in the round of 12. This is the second race. If you're looking, I mean, Allgaier's 1 point to the pad. So, I mean, he's looking to have a good day, obviously, but things definitely aren't. I mean, this isn't necessarily a make or break race. Don't finish last because that's not going to help you by any means. But you can just go ahead and have a decent day. He doesn't need to win this race or anything to make sure that he moves on.
Yeah, and obviously we know that Justin Allgaier, JRM, they're gonna be fast, they're gonna be good. But I did take a couple of JGR cars over him because, again, he's just not good at this track in particular. So does he need to run well? Well, he wouldn't want to run badly, but I think history dictates that it's not going to be as easy as he's hoping for in this particular race.
Hasn't done very well. Boji Joe followed up on a question: is the bet void or live if McGee does not qualify into the race? Depends on the books. Some books will void those bets, some books won't. So again, you're going to have to look at your book's rules and maybe wait. Likely numbers on those types of guys aren't going to adjust much after qualifying at Talladega. So it looks like we talked Walter out of taking Chase Elliott. Boji Joe wants to know what Chase Elliott's top 10 number is. Definitely not worth it because they've destroyed top 10s. So without even looking, I will tell you that. Preston, general overreaching question. You guys have to pick one driver to win a super speedway race in each series at Talladega, assuming the equipment, assuming same equipment if it matters here. Who do you take? So gun to your head, pick a winner from each series is kind of the what we're going with here?
If we're talking same equipment, well, I mean,
well, that makes it tough because then you can't really see the results. So I would say and like equipment doesn't really matter. So just like you got to pick the driver you think can go out and have the best day. Who is it? Give me Corey Heim in the Truck Series because he's the best driver out there. He's the guy that I trust the most, Rod. Give me Brad Keselowski in the Cup Series because he's done it 6 times here before. He's really fucking good. Honorable mention to Ryan Blaney because he is also extremely good here. And in the Xfinity Series, Rod, not as easy of a question here. Boy, who would I take in the Xfinity Series again? And not but you can't. I was gonna say Austin Hill, but it's Talladega.
No, you can't. Not at Talladega, you can't.
AJ Allmendinger. He's the guy that I trust the most to be there at the end and give me a chance, Rob.
That's a good bleeding heart. Look, if I'm doing this, if I'm taking anything, if for the Truck Series, I mean it is Heim, but I still think Sanchez is a sneaky. I'm going to stand by my Sanchez.
I would have thought you would go with Rhodes, baby, but
nah, because I did pick Rhodes to win, and that's fine. But I did it because it's more out of spite. If I'm picking one guy, you know what I'm saying? Like I betting on Ben Rhodes, yes, at 10-1. That's a good deal. That's what you want, and I'm going to cheer for that to happen. But if I think one guy can win this race, I think Nick Sanchez has a really good shot at doing that. And then if I'm doing it for the Xfinity Series, I'm with you on AJ Allmendinger. I really do think that's a good pick. But I also do like Jesse Love. I gave him out on the betting episode. I'm going to double down on Jesse Love.
Odds all about the young guys driving number 2.
Yes, I am. Yeah, give me the young guys driving too. In fact, I am the Sanchez and so fine. Then give me Austin Cindric. No, I'm just kidding. I have no way I wanted that one. Although he could. And then in the Cup Series, you said Ryan Blaney, and that's what I was going to say, Ryan Blaney, because that dude has been like lights out at Talladega over the course of his last few races.
He's been really good as well. That's why I wanted to give honorable mention to him. But if I have to pick one, I'm going to take Brad. Boji Joe followed up with the -175 for the top 10. Yeah, no thanks. Rick checking in over on the Facebook saying Carson Hocevar for the win. I was trying to quickly look up what Hocevar's odds are because he is definitely one of the longer shots. So I definitely do not hate taking that. He is 85-1 over on the FanDuel. So pretty good number there if you want to bet on him. He is not on Underdog, unfortunately. But if you want to play him in DFS, he is nice and cheap at $6,100. Rod, what does he look like at Talladega? Of course, he has no starts in the Cup Series at Talladega, I do not believe. But in the Truck Series, as I try to find his name on this list.
I will say, as you search, he got you 44 points at Atlanta earlier this season, started 35th rather, and finished 19th. So a good day for you at Atlanta, a drafting track there. At the Geico 500, he got you 48 points. He started 35th and finished 17th. So another good day there.
I guess that would be his Talladega start since they've been here earlier this year. So yeah, that's a good day. 11th last season in the trucks at Talladega. He was second in stage 1, third in stage 2, so he was up front throughout the day in the Truck Series. 28th, 25th in his other 2 starts here. But definitely a guy that I would look at as again a GPP type of play over in the DFS side of things. All right, I am Notorious checking in on some Kevin Harvick odds. Oh wait, that's right. Damn. How about Chase Briscoe?
I don't think we like Chase Briscoe.
Chase Briscoe, Rod. He is set at 13.5 over on the good old Underdog. Chase Briscoe, a guy we've talked about a ton. He is fairly high up on the list here. Let's see. Well, okay. Oh, very interesting. Maybe a guy we should look at more.
Finished 12th.
So he's got, 7 career starts here, Rod. 12th, 13th, 4th, 10th, 137th place sprinkled in there, but 14th and 11th. So in his 7 starts, he's been 14th or better in all of them. So appropriately, 13.5 is where his number is set. He's been better than 13.5 in 4 straight at Talladega and in 5 of the 7 races. So boy.
I'll add on to this. 10th place at Daytona earlier in the season. He started 9th at Atlanta, unfortunately crashed out, finished 31st at that one. Like you said, a 12th place at Talladega. Come back around for the second round of drafting tracks, 14th at Daytona, and then 38th. He crashed out of Atlanta. So Atlanta's not been a good track to him, but Daytona, drafting tracks, pretty good. Talladega, like you said, pretty decent. So,
man, yeah, having 4 in a row better than and like all but one finish has been 14th or better. I think you got to lean on the better than side of things. Also, playoffs wise, he's 25 points below the cut line, so he needs to have a really solid day here. Maybe have some other people have some bad luck, Kyle Larson's types of guys. So yeah, give me the better then on Chase Briscoe, which sort of surprises me. Just like blind not looking at it. Probably not a guy that I would have thought that I would be on the better than side of things. Rod Walter checking in again. Wants to know about Michael Waltrip's son, Daniel Dye. Unfortunately, he is not on Underdog, but when it comes to the Truck Series, he is available over there for $7,400. Daniel Dye at Talladega. Rod has done pretty good in his one career start. He finished in 6th place.
That's good. Well, and so at Daytona, he started 7th, crashed out, finished 21st. But Atlanta, he put it on the pole. He put that 43 truck on the pole, ended up finishing 9th. So, that's
the problem. Is if he qualifies well, it's going to make him tough to play in DFS, because when they qualify well, it's really, really risky in DFS, because if you get caught up in a wreck, it can cost you a lot. So if Daniel Dye doesn't qualify well, definitely should be a guy that you're looking at to play in DFS wise, because he's got upside 6th in his one start here, which he did start 29th in that race. So a really strong DFS day last season. Of course, we know Daniel Dye seems to have taken leaps and bounds since last year. Although he did cut the hair, don't really agree with that. That seemed to not work well for him last week at Kansas, but that's neither here nor there, I suppose. All right, Rod. Boji Joe was asking who liked Eric Jones. Was that me? Good. That was me. Of course it was me, Rod. Love Eric Jones. Is Eric Jones available over on the Underdog? Unfortunately,
I don't think
he is not. But hey, look, Eric Jones really, really good at Talladega throughout his career. Last 2 finishes here haven't been good. 3 6th place finishes in a row. Maybe don't put those numbers together because it looks not so great. But $6,200 for him. Definitely a guy that I will be trying to play. And I play a lot of different fantasy games. Some of them, you submit before where they're starting and all of that stuff. Eric Jones is going to be one of the guys that I click. If he's still available in any of my one and done pools, he's going to be one of the top guys that I'm looking for. Eric Jones has really, really good here throughout his career. Again, 35th in the spring, was part of that Toyota chain reaction. They were all racing together. So I don't want to take it out because it still counts, right? And it's still things that can go bad at a super speedway, but extenuating circumstances there. 26th last fall, but prior to that, Rod, 6th, 9th, 127th in there, but then 2nd, 5th. So in the last 9 races, he's got 6 top 9 finishes, 5 in the top 6. Pretty strong runs. And again, that's through Joe Gibbs Toyotas, Richard Petty Chevys, Petty GMS Chevys, Legacy Chevys, Legacy Toyota. Like, he's been good in pretty much everything. So I do love Eric Jones this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, he did get you 42 points earlier at Daytona, so a good run there as well. You kind of like that. And let's see, I'm trying to look at the Coke Zero Sugar, 53 there points there. So yeah, I mean, he's been good. He's been getting you some decent points, but I think he's a straight up GPP play for sure. Not necessarily much value in cash games, just in case he does happen to crash out. All right. I mean, not to say that we're getting kind of close to time, but there's a lot of Boji Joe wanting to know some guys on here. We'll touch on a couple of these. I do want to hold on before we get to Walter. I do want to say, Preston says, I'd just like to publicly thank my wife for telling me to make dinner while you answered my first comment and then calling me from her friend's car during the other 2. Have to listen again later. Preston, buddy, we love you.
It seems like that's how it always happens. Like you're doing something and you're listening. It's great. And then like, oh, I want to listen to this part. And then that's when the kid comes up and they're like, and you're like, fuck, I missed what I wanted to hear. It happens.
Hey, thank God for rewind, because we lived in a world back in the day where you could not rewind at all. So
right. Yeah, you can go back and listen to this here. You can go back and listen to it on the podcast or whatever. So Tyrone Gibbs Walter wants to know about 12.5. We don't even need to ask Rod his opinion because we already know his opinion. I did make a case for Ty Gibbs to win the race at 33-1 because I think that number is great. I think he is very capable of doing so, but his starts here have not been good, Rod. They've actually been so bad that I can't seem to find him on my list.
37th, 31st, 34th,
Yeah.
22nd, has only finished one race in his Cup Series career at Talladega, and that was this spring. So,
yeah, unfortunately, not been good results. I stick by the taking him at 33-1 because I think he is capable of winning this race. But again, if you have to pick better or worse than, you have to take the worse than side because he's 0% hitting in his career. Maybe gets that first hit this weekend. You'd love to see it, but you got to go where the numbers take you.
this is a case where if Ty Gibbs is swinging to kick me in the nuts, I am not moving. I don't care. He's gonna swing away, and he's gonna Charlie Brown that thing and just soar into the air with Lucy laughing at him.
There
No?
you go.
You know what? I've been with Cody for 3 years now on this show. That laugh right there is I don't even know how to respond to that laugh, but go ahead.
That was part me not knowing how to respond. Part I only heard half of what you said because I was trying to read the comments and find the next spot we were going to go. So I didn't really catch the full context of it all. There was a Snoopy reference in there. I got that part. But yeah, I don't know. Anyways,
is there any other driver in here that we haven't talked about yet that we should talk about?
Let's see.
I mean, I know Ryan Sieg. Go back and Boji Joe, you know our rules.
Right, you know the answer to some of these questions. Ryan Sieg, absolutely. Preston wants to know, last question for the show, best bets for the NFL this week. Any locks you guys have? I do the tally site picks every week where we log, you can log our best bets. I shared those over on the X at Husker_Zeeb, so follow that. I pick every game every week. I've had a pretty decent record so far. So if you want like my opinion on each game, I also do about 5 of the game previews every week for articles for sportsgamblingpodcast.com. So I always put 2 of my favorite best bets in that. So make sure you're checking those out always. Tonight, Baker Mayfield over 11.5 rushing yards.
Mhm.
I don't think that game hasn't started yet right now. So
it's
get that in if you're listening now. I really do like that one. Also like him first touchdown. I think I got it at like 16-1 myself, but I think Sean said he got it like 35-1, I think. Somewhere. I don't know if that's even still available out there. But I do really like that London game, and the game preview is actually already out.
Yep. Oh no, the London. I like Drake London.
Oh, you like Drake London tonight?
I like Drake London. Yeah, I actually think he's got an alternate number right now. Huh?
Does anybody like Drake London? I mean,
I like him to score the first touchdown. He's got 2. He's got 2 of the 4 touchdowns that. Yeah. So
there you go.
One of them was a first touchdown. So give me Drake London.
There you go. I do like that. In the London game on Sunday morning, nice and early, the Vikings are 1.5, 2.5 point favorites, depending on where you look, over the Jets. It just it doesn't make any sense. Sam Darnold revenge game, like he's going to show up and ball out. You're putting old man Rodgers on a flight overseas. He's going to be finding some ayahuasca plants or whatever the fuck. So, yeah, give me the Jets. That'd be my favorite outright of the week, I believe.
Aaron Rodgers flying a jet as part of the Jets. Yeah, look, he's gonna. If he's like me, if I sit in a plane seat for too long, then yeah, I'm getting up and I'm not throwing a football for another, 20, 30, 40 years after that. So,
I can't believe nobody asked this question, Rod.
What's the question?
Nobody wants to know Kyle Larson. What are our opinion on Kyle Larson? I don't know why nobody wants to know this, but he's listed at 12.5 as his projected finishing position over on the Underdog, Rod. I will gladly tell you to take the worse than for Mr. Kyle Larson. Again, I will reiterate, he has, 45, 48? I can't remember the exact number. He has a lot of career starts on super speedways. One time ever has he finished inside of the top 5. That was here at Talladega. But with a projected finishing position of 12.5, Rod, once in the last 9 races has he finished better than that. 21st here in the spring, 15th last fall, 33rd, 18th. April of 22, he did have that 4th place finish. That was his his one shining moment. 37th, 40th, 39th, 24th, 11th, 40th, 13th, 12th. I mean, now you're all the way back to 2016, where he did have a little bit of better luck earlier then. But Kyle Larson, not good on the super speedways. So had to make sure I put that out there so it's on the record. Worse than 12.5. This will probably be in no, not probably. This will be in every single underdog lineup that I submit this weekend.
Yep, and everybody's just waiting for you to be wrong so they can come back here in the chat and blow you up. But there's another 12.5 that I think I'm going to take the worst then as well, and that's Christopher Bell. That's kind of an unpopular take on this one, but Christopher Bell on this particular track, his average finishing position is 21. His average start is 12th, so he's starting there, but he's definitely not finishing there. His last finish, in fact, he started on the pole in 2 races in a row, the 2022 spring race and the 2022 fall race, but finishes of 22nd, 17th, 8th. That's a good one. Yeah, but 14th and 38th. Something about Christopher Bell on this track, not really good. So give me the worse than 12.5 for Christopher Bell.
One final one, Rod. If you want to just play 2 things, be nice and safe, put in a 2-person one, max it out, I would do the Kyle Larson and Austin Hill, Rod. Worse than 2.5. He has to finish in the top 2. 5 career starts at Talladega. He's never finished better than 14th. He started on the pole 3 races in a row. He led 41 laps earlier this spring. He led 60 laps last fall. He led 67 laps in April of 22. Never finished better than 14th. I know how good he is at Daytona. I know how good he is at Atlanta. It has not translated to Talladega. Maybe he'll shock everybody and win. It's not really a shock because he's plus 300 to win the race. But 2.5, Rod, there's 38 cars in the Xfinity Series. We had this conversation earlier. On a normal week, how many of those cars could finish in the top 2? Maybe 10 if we're really pushing it. How many cars out of 38 can finish in the top 2 this weekend, Rob?
Like all but Austin
38. Austin Hill could do it too, but 38, all of them could. And there's only 2 cars that are going to finish there. You have to play the odds on this one. Worse than Austin Hill 2.5. That's actually, I like that better than Kyle Larson, just because the number is so small. It's ridiculous. He's been really good here, but he's never been able to get it done. And we've seen it before. People get tired of working with this dude in the draft because he's so fucking good at it.
Oh, yeah, they just leave him like nobody's business. It's like as soon as Austin Hill starts to get to the front, they're like, can we start a 5th line? Is there a 5th line? Can we go? Who wants to start a 5th line? Everybody just leave Austin Hill out in the dark. And there he is, just kind of waving at everybody as they go by.
Yep.
But,
all right, Rod.
Wow, Cody.
That was a lot of fun. That was a good time. We covered a lot of drivers. So thank you guys. We were, talking before the show. It's like, if we don't get enough suggestions, like we're just going to give out some of our own. Like, not a problem. Didn't even get to everything. So we appreciate you guys dropping in all the people you wanted to know about. And always appreciate the chat interaction. A lot of fun. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Go enjoy some Thursday night football this evening. And, have a good weekend. Talladega, baby. Enjoy it. Super Speedway, final one of the season. Always a lot of fun. Rod, follow me over on the X at Husker_Zeeb. I mentioned it. Ton of NFL game previews every week for sportsgamblingpodcast.com. Cup Series betting article. I have a bet in there that I found after the show that I didn't give out on the show. Make sure you go check that out. Again, all near the top of all the biggest views last month. NASCAR articles. Love to see that. Keep it up, guys. Bosses notice stuff like that. So we really, really appreciate that. And follow the show as well at NASCAR Gambling. Subscribe to the YouTube because if you do, you click that bell, you join us live. Maybe your question gets answered on here, like all these questions we answered today. Have a great weekend. Don't forget to bet on Keith McGee. And, best of luck.
We will definitely see you all next week for the recap episode. Remember, Truck's on Friday night, so get everything you need to do before that race starts, and then just enjoy the rest of the weekend after that. Follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio, everything I got going on, whether it's here, whether it's Sportsbook Review. Check out the back road. If you're watching live, it'll be in about an hour, and if you're listening, go check it out on the YouTube. It's already up there waiting for you. I'm leaving the phone number in the Discord all weekend long. Call us with your best, your sweats. Call us with some of your, instant reactions to the race, whatever it is. We'll play them back on the recap show and have some fun talking it through. So, sg.pn/Discord. to find the number, and we'll pin it, and then you can have fun just talking to us and leave a message with that. So, all right, guys, we'll see you later. Enjoy Dega, baby. And until then, let's go racing and let it ride.